lost.
Welcome back, Hatchimals, to another episode of the LAZOR podcast, number 54. I am one of your hosts, NeoCal.
And once again, I am the man with the bullshit haircut that literally no one else on Earth has, even though I've met two people who also have this haircut. I'm the Siege.
What are you talking about? Nobody else has the side. All right.
Never gonna let that joke. That
Never gonna give it up.
Never gonna give it up.
Yeah.
I wear it with a badge of honor now, good sir. So
that's right.
If you were trying to insult me, you failed horribly.
Come at him, bro. We're discussing a little request here on the Laser Comb, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We're we were originally going to do this episode of the LaserComb podcast last week, but because of the passing of Jason David Frank, we opted to talk about that instead. So we're back to Patreon requests, and I reached out to our patrons and asked them to give a few submissions because we're probably going to be spending the next couple of months just doing Patreon shows.
We used to kind of try to do like month by month themes, but then it kind of became we'll go through something, and then when we finish it, we finish it, right?
And then when it's done, when it's done, it's done. So we'll probably
so whenever we're done all of our Patreon requests is when we're done.
Yeah, probably. I'm guessing probably in February of 2023.
Yeah, so you all get one.
Yeah.
Join now. Hurry. $5 to make us watch something.
And indeed, that's what our longtime listener and Patreon supporter, Lewis, shout out to him. He pitched us several things, and and we're probably going to go through all of them at some point, but I picked a little show called Manimal first.
You sure did. And I can say confidently that I had never heard of this.
The reason why I went with this one first is because film critics and podcasters that I've been listening to for since like 2017 now, William Bibiani and Whitney Seibold, they do a show called Canceled Too Soon, which is where they review TV shows that lasted only one season or less. Sometimes they even just do pilots. Uh,
Oh,
they had
interesting.
they had done Manimal at some point. Now I haven't listened to the episode, but they
A
will.
whole season.
Yeah, of 8 episodes. Um, I hadn't listened to that episode of their podcast because I think they did it before I was listening to them. But they reference Manimal a lot, and so uh,
It's the lawnmower man of Bibbs and Whitney, right?
Bibbs and Whitney, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so they reference Manimal a lot. So when I saw that Lewis had pitched Manimal, I'm like, okay, this
Now's my chance.
now is my chance. And we put it through the old random number generator as always, and we landed on episode 4. And again, there's only 8 episodes of this show, so and
You know
episode
what it's
4.
called?
Yes, I do.
Siege and I.
Female of the species.
so, so
We're gonna have to
there's a
explain this
little
one.
story there. Okay, I think it came out when we were doing Star Trek month, but maybe long before.
Hmm.
And I kind of went on a little, probably in a preamble somewhere, which are all on Patreon.
Yep, they're all there.
And I went on a ramble where I was like, biggest red flag to look out for in guys is when they use the word female instead of just saying lady or woman or girl.
Yeah, yeah. Now, how this came up was because like I have a tendency when I'm talking about characters, like I'll often refer to them, especially if I don't know their names, I'll refer to them as like the male lead or the male protagonist and the female lead or the female protagonist. And I think I had said the female protagonist, and that's when you brought it up. Now, I stand by that context, like being okay, an okay use of it.
I think when you're talking about the female of the species or the male protagonist or like whatever, um it doesn't really, that's almost a literary term, whereas like the man protagonist doesn't, the masculine protagonist doesn't
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
the feminine protagonist doesn't really like match, and that's fine. But when somebody's in, say, like, like YouTube comments, and they're like, oh man, like that's the thing about females is that they don't understand shonen.
Yeah.
uh
And
um
especially like I've seen, so there's a subreddit, I can't remember what it's called. So since Cal pointed this out to me, it's now something I can't unsee.
I
um,
Go ahead.
and I ended up finding a subreddit which whose name escapes me right now, but it's basically like screenshots of like dudes on like Twitter or like Facebook or whatever, uh,
Unironically,
unironically and like very grossly like using the word female. And like and like even in the same sentence they'll refer to like a dude as a man or a guy or
guys
whatever,
or yeah.
but then when they're talking about a woman in the same sentence they'll say the female, like they're a fucking Ferengi or something.
And that's the thing. I When we had covered like Star Trek and like a fucking Quark's brother, oh, you're saying there's gonna be females? um Yes, many beautiful females. Ears bigger than their heads. Oh, wow. That's immediately what.
I really like the females.
But the females don't like me. Um,
What's a man to do when the females don't like him?
what's a hardworking Ferengi to do when the females won't even look at him? That's because you're not. That's because you're not showing off how much latinum you make. And anyways, it's just turned into a rip on Ferengi. By the way, Ferengi are supposed to be analysis of those problematic capitalist and like masculine viewpoints.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's also, as with some other races in
I
Star Trek,
yeah.
there's some racial some unhealthy racial stereotyping going on with
Eh,
there.
Yeah, and then when you're trying to bring that to the spotlight, it's now Star Trek podcast again. When you're trying to bring it to the spotlight, what's the difference between bringing it to the attention, where all the characters on it's almost like hanging a lantern on it,
Yeah,
where you're like, hey, like look, these aliens are xenophobic. But then you have a race of aliens act like a certain way or be very violent or be untrustworthy, and it's like, okay, at what point are you actually just reinforcing the the, the prejudice?
yeah,
Right?
just reinforcing the stereotype instead of like trying to deconstruct it.
Yeah, so I understand what they were trying to do, but I also understand the criticism there. And
Yeah, you got an entire race of like stereotypically short aliens with big ears and big noses who are really
love
into money.
money and believe in gender roles and
Yeah.
oh, and don't trust others. um and what is this, a Harry Potter analysis? Uh, but that's it, that's for a different episode. But
Oh, anyway, female of the
we are
species.
talking about the any what Siege was saying was he can't unsee it.
Yeah,
And
I
now
can't.
every once in a while he'll be on Reddit or he'll be on YouTube or something, and you'll spot that in the wild.
Yeah.
It's like
Uh,
one of those things, once it's brought to your attention, it's like fucking everywhere.
yeah, just I can't look away. Like I can't not notice it now, which is a good thing, I might add.
Yeah.
But
And here we are, and a product of its time, we got the female of the species, Manimal, 1983. Feels like 1968.
or more like 1976 maybe.
Not quite run along now, man talk, but but um, I was watching the first couple minutes of it. My partner walked by, and they were like, "Is this offensive?" And I'm like, "Probably." I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know who it's offending, but probably.
okay, so what is Manimal about? Manimal, in broad strokes, Manimal is about a guy named Dr. Jonathan Chase, played by Simon McCorkindale, which is a fucking
Way
great
cooler
name.
actor. The actor has a way cooler name than the
And
character.
he's already part of the Lasercomb canon because a few episodes ago when we reviewed the British anthology series Hammer House of Horror, he was in
Oh
that
yeah.
episode. So when I saw this, I'm like, oh, holy shit! It's the douchebag husband from that episode of Hammer House of Horror that we covered.
Yeah,
Great,
it's the gaslighting husband from that
yeah.
episode.
So he plays Dr. Jonathan Chase, a guy who has mastered the ways of uh, a technique that he learned from African tribes that allow him to metamorphosize into any animal that he chooses. So already that is a very loaded premise right there that
I've
is
come in and tamed, and I've hung out with the tribes of Africa, and I've tamed the wild beast inside me.
so yeah, so that's a very dated premise unto itself. Also, so and he uses these powers to like do good, basically. Do good things
Help
in the world.
police, but not even just police. Like the wiki will tell you, oh, he helps police solve crimes. No, he's very much Indiana Jones in the sense like this belongs in a museum, or this person needs protection, or like all people deserve freedom. So he's on the side of justice.
Yeah, so problematic origins aside, he seems like an altruistic character.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong from learning from different cultures,
Yeah,
as long as it's just, it's just that. But it does feel very on the
learning a
coattails of
yeah.
taking something from the untamed savages, and using it for for the good of the Western society. It does have that ring. It's basically he's like a discount Storm. He's like a British discount Storm
Storm.
from X-Men, right?
Well,
Like
he
Storm
doesn't.
can like shapeshift into animals in later issues, and she can like control like weather.
I didn't know about the shape shifting.
Or am I mixing? I'm not the biggest X-Men like person. Am I mixing up? No, the shapeshifter is
In Titans, Teen Titans, there's Beast
Beast
Boy.
Boy.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
he's got green skin and he can turn into animals. So this
And
guy is basically Beast Boy.
he's like Beast Boy at home because he's
So anyway, so yeah, so he uses his powers to do good in the world. So this episode,
I don't know why I ever thought like Storm's like powers were like expanded into like shape shifting into
I mean,
animals.
superheroes get new powers all the time. So
Yeah.
I had just wondered because I haven't read an X-Men comic in like a decade or
The
so.
last one,
I just wondered. I'm like, oh, is that something she gained?
the last one I had read, she had a bullshit haircut like yours. Actually, she had like a mohawk with like the sides shaved. Was that
Cool.
Ultimate?
You know what
You
version
tell
of,
me, listeners.
You know what version of Storm I liked was Mutant X, which was a comic that was in the mid to late 90s. It's about Havoc, the brother of Cyclops, gets seemingly dies in a plane crash, but he's actually transported to an alternate world where like the X-Men are basically the mirror universe. So he becomes the leader of the X-Men in this like dark dimension, and Storm is like this like it is like a vampire. She wears like a leather jacket with like studs, and she's got a mohawk and stuff.
I'm checking it out now, but like long.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, hell yeah.
Mutant X the comic, not to be confused with the very low budget TV show from the early 2000s, also called Mutant X, which is claims to be based on this comic. But the premise has nothing at all to do with it, nor do any of the characters.
Evil version of a character always sexier?
Because good is dumb.
There you go.
There we go.
Because
So
like good's always associated with like wholesomeness, but I don't like that like sexuality is a weakness or a bad thing. Different conversation for a different day.
so Manimal. So this episode of Manimal opens with Dr. Crane. What's his name? Or Dr. Chase. I keep confusing him with Dr. Jonathan Crane, who is Scarecrow in Batman.
They're so similar. Their powers.
It's just the name. So Dr. Chase. I'm just gonna call him Manimal. Whatever.
I was just gonna say I'm calling him Manimal.
So Manimal and Cop Lady are in this like classroom.
Manimal and Cop Woman.
That should be the name of the show.
Manimal and Cop Woman.
Oh.
Manimal X Nightman, which is a thing apparently.
It is a thing, yeah. So Manimal and Cop Lady are in like a classroom, being given a lecture by some dude who is talking about like this wild woman who is in India who has been raised by wolves. And
Immediately started laughing.
So did I. And they mentioned in the episode about like how it's not entirely unprecedented for human beings to be raised by animals. And I'm like, I don't think that's actually a thing. I think that's just some Tarzan bullshit.
It's some Tarzan bullshit.
I don't know of this ever actually being a thing that has existed in history. People being raised by animals. Because it's like, you know what's gonna happen if like wolves find like an infant out in the wild? They're gonna fucking eat it. Yeah. Or like if and they in this yeah, if like chimpanzee or like gorillas or like lions or whatever, they find a little kid out in the wild, they're just gonna fucking eat it. They're not gonna raise it.
Maybe one of them, like if it was a chimp or something, maybe like if there was like a female chimp, they might like that lost their own kid, they might like go and try to protect it for a while. But like primates are extremely like they'll smash to pieces. They'll rip apart things that are like other, right?
Yeah.
They're just like us. They'll be like, oh, this one doesn't look right, and they'll mash it to pieces.
Bash it with a rock.
Yeah.
Just like humans do.
Yeah, just like humans. But not only that, it's just like humans naked pink, like naked hairless like apes, like ain't gonna survive in the canopy of trees.
Yeah. So they watch this video, and the dude gives this lecture. There's also this other dude who is like sitting behind them, who is like some like rich like businessman or something. The fact that he's there comes into play later in the episode.
Oh right, I'm like, who's this fucker?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's some sort of not university or like scholarly lecture. They're not for students. It's kind of just like, oh, fellow scientists and like explorers of the untamed like jungles, kind of like at fellow adventurers kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, the camera zooms out from the video, and Wolf, the locals in India are like capturing her.
Yeah.
Right. And
it was a weird transition. We go from seeing a video to about her being like, oh, no one has ever been able to capture her, and then they just capture her immediately after that. It was a weird,
and then it turns
transition.
out that it's somebody narrating I was gonna say PowerPoint, a projector, like video, and I'm like, wow, how nice of them to get all those camera angles of the naked girl with long hair.
She's actually naked in this too, which really surprised me because this is like network This was aired on NBC.
She's wearing very thin, flesh-colored.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I did my research.
So Manimal is watching this, and after the video is over, he's all looking just like really uncomfortable as he's watching this, and this actor Simon McCorkindale, I love his facial expression. Just in general, he has a very animated face. He did in Hammer House of Horror too. The guy, it's like
he's a legend.
Very animated, very over the top facial expressions, and I fucking love it.
He does, yeah, for everything.
Yeah, so I want to review more shows that this guy is in,
right?
Sometime down the road. There's one there's one that we spoke of in the preamble, a Canadian show called Counter-Strike that aired in the early 90s that I think we'll probably try to get to at some point.
It's what the video game's based off of, surely.
Oh, surely.
But it turns out that a wolf girl, she's here, like a couple rooms away down the hall.
Yeah, and so Manimal is like, he's like, oh, the sounds she's making, she's afraid.
Because somebody had thrown something into her holding cell.
Mm-hmm.
Like an explosive device, an incendiary like grenade to
bust her
out. Or kill her. Because later they were like, oh, you were supposed to kill her. And he's all like, well, if you want it to make it look like an accident, it's prone to error.
So so I'm going to preface this. I'm just going to get this out of the way. There are so many things that I like about this show, and we'll talk about them when they come up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we talk about like, oh, like we just landed on a bad episode. I feel like this might be the case here because I found the plot of this episode extraordinarily boring. But there is so much.
Just how I have a. Go ahead.
But there's so much about this show that I just absolutely love. So I actually do kind of want to check the rest of this show out.
I have a feeling this is probably not one of the more boring episodes. I have a feeling this is standard Manimal. Kind of that low budget. We'll stretch things out to an hour film slot.
Yeah, this show could have easily been a half hour long.
It could have been 22 minutes, but it's 48.
Yeah. Because they had less commercials back then.
And what ends up happening? Wait, those aren't, because she's howling like a wolf.
Yeah.
Good job on whoever did the human wolf howling. And he's like,
I'm sure it was definitely the actress who plays
cries of sorrows. Those are cries of fear. And he runs off to save her. And in so doing, she does escape the fire, but she also escapes the facility.
Yeah. So he like tries to track her down, and he ends up catching up with her, and he's
Like in an alleyway.
like in an alleyway, and he's like being
Police are chasing her. She's
he's
like
he's being like very
Assassin's Creed through crowds.
he's got like his hands out and faced up, like making some hilarious faces, like just trying to show that he's not a threat.
I
Uh,
like that the universal wolf, um, like I'm not a threat, is putting your palms up, something wolves can't do. And I'm like, no,
but
you're supposed to show submissiveness, or you're, or whatever. I'm not going to get into it.
but I mean though, like that's what people do with dogs, so which is a
Put
thing
their
that dogs
palms up.
or put their palms open and faced
Well,
upward.
you can also do this. You don't
Oh,
have to.
okay.
Yeah, you like you're allowing
I've seen a lot
them
of people
to.
do the open palm thing with dogs.
Yeah. Well, dogs understand human facial language expressions, so it would make sense that they understand body language to some extent. Like they understand pointing, and they
True.
understand when you raise your voice. Yeah. So
So he's getting through to her, but then a
this is
cop.
hilarious.
But
For
that
some reason, a fucking cop comes out and he's like, "Freeze, motherfucker!" And he like cocks a shotgun and aims it right at her. And I'm like, "Whoa, hey, what the fuck? What did she do?
isn't
I, what
isn't
is
that just
that?
how
The
isn't that just how cops are?
I guess that, especially in the 80s. Freeze, motherfucker! You are guilty of having long ass hair and running around naked. Yeah, and so like
He says to his partner, he's been waiting my entire fucking career for this.
you've been on
Cocks
the
his
force
shotgun.
2 weeks, exactly. Like what the fuck? And
Yeah, I got my first kill within my first 5 days, so I think you're kind of. I think it's about time you got your shot.
a cop woman comes in, and they're like, "No, no!" And she like pushes the butt of the shotgun like up. Don't. And I'm like, well, one, police wouldn't let you do that, and two, what? How is like she's not doing anything life threatening, but
Yeah,
I mean, police, they, I, this is America.
this is America.
And
Good
Manimal
song.
like
Good song
runs
by
over.
Donald Glover.
I was just listening to that while I was working out, and I'm like, man, this fucking slaps. It's not the
So,
most hypest in its.
the music video is really poignant too.
Oh, the music video's my fave.
Yeah.
And what happens here?
She
Manimal like goes over to the police officer. No, 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 blah blah, and tries to defuse the situation.
He
And she
escapes.
like
She escapes by like
scales
yeah.
a
She escapes
building,
by like climbing a ladder or something up onto the roof of a
a drain
building
pipe,
or a drain
and
pipe.
I think that what they did is they lowered somebody like on a cable, and then they reversed the footage to make it because the movement's a little bit weird.
Yeah.
And he climbs up after her,
Yep.
and it's kind of like they really milk every single boring fuck. Like this is like 5 minutes of him looking around on like rooftops for her, and then he's like, "Oh, no one's around. Now it's time."
And yeah, he's like, damn it, can't find her. And then one of the greatest fucking things I've ever seen in my entire life happens. So some really like hype, like 80s like synth music starts playing, which I actually looked up. The music for this show was composed by Alan Silvestri, who is a legendary composer. He did the Back to the Future theme. He did the music for Captain America, the First Avenger. He did the music for that first Avengers movies. He did the Judge Dredd movie.
Right.
He's a legendary composer. So the fact that he was doing this show in 1983 is kind of amazing.
And
So
not only that, the facial expressions of McCon, what's his last name again?
McCorkindale.
Simon McCorkindale.
Yeah.
Man, he makes this because it's so. What is this? The transformation sequence, a la like American Werewolf and in London
Yep.
is a mix of prosthetic and time lapse and his own
Uh, his own weird
expressions.
expressions. And so like it's cutting. So like I said, we got this hype music playing, and he starts to metamorphosize, and then
Y'all
we
remember
like
Animorphs?
we cut back to like animals. Like first we get like a zoom up on a cat being like and then
Like
we
being
cut back
weirded
to
out
him.
by him, yeah.
And then we cut back to him, like his face, like changing even more. And then we
And
cut
it's
to
a
like,
little beak like his nose is pointy and his chin's pointy as it looks painful.
and just
We
like the
cut to a
face,
pigeon,
cut to a pigeon, and like it keeps like zooming in on this pigeon and like cutting back to him,
and now
like
there's
his
kind of
face.
a beak coming out of his face. Oh, and there's feathers pushing through like fake skin.
And then like his eye like changing, and like his hands changing into like bird feet.
They first come claws, and then like the fur on his hair becomes feathers, and the halfway in between, yeah, like those that meme that's like, y'all ever feel like an in between Animorph sometimes? It's pretty great, and it seems different for each animal,
Yeah,
which I'm
it is
actually kind
totally.
of shocked by. It's not just reusing the same Wolfman
For
transformation.
1983 television, these I think would have been like 11 out of 10 special
This is
effects.
11 out of 10 now. Like, this is fantastic, man. If
So
you're a fan of The Evil Dead, listeners,
yeah,
the claymation in that, um and like practical effects, oh my god, even if you don't watch the episode, YouTube like Manimal transformation sequences.
specifically look up the pigeon one because that's what he's turning into here. Because it's I
Well, he's
uh,
turning into a hawk because he attacks later as the hawk.
no, even the video says that it's the video, and it's by an official video by Shout Factory who released the DVD. It specifically says that he's turning into a pigeon.
but it but he flies away as a hawk, and he attacks the those those hoodlums as a hawk.
Fair enough, yeah. But anyway, the name of the video on YouTube is like it says pigeon, so just like
Okay.
just type into YouTube. Actually, you know what? You're watching this, and I'm going to put the
There you go.
transformation in here. So don't
If you
even
haven't
just
already watched it.
if you haven't. I'm thinking of just making it the cold open for this episode. So,
Yeah.
this is fucking great. And the combination between like the weird like faces he's making and like the quick like zoom ups on like the pigeons.
And then a
I
cat for some reason.
I laughed for several minutes. I laughed harder and louder than I have laughed at anything in a very, very, very long time. This was an absolute fucking joy. This is one of my favorite things I've ever seen. It's this
That's amazing.
transformation sequence.
And
I was when I went into this episode, I was like, oh yeah, this is the show's like kind of boring, and like a wild woman in India, and like there's like some problematic things to this. But then this, as soon as the music kicked in, it already had my attention because I'm like, oh, this is
this
kind
is
of a
hype.
dope. This is a dope beat. And then when the transformation sequences started happening, I'm like, what the fuck am
It
I
gets
watching?
better and better as you watch it. It's what I wanted Animorphs to be like. So we had very different reactions. I still enjoyed it, but I kind of was just like, and watched it in like silent like awe, and I'm like, is this amazing? Is this ahead of its time? This is like fucking fantastic.
And he turns into different animals like in different episodes, and even later
And the
on in the episode,
transformations are different.
they're different every time. Yeah, even later on in this episode, like he
Maybe like
turned.
all birds are the same or something, right? But they're different in
actually
this episode.
Actually, no. There's a somebody I looked on YouTube. Somebody made a compilation of like every transformation from Manimal, and they're all different.
And that they're good.
Yeah.
So what happens is,
So
cop woman sees the hawk fly off, and she's like, and she gets in her Cadillac and follows
Yeah,
Because you know
so
how easy it is to follow birds when you're in a city.
so she knows
What's
uh
going on? She's
yeah,
on the up and up.
yeah. So the
You ready for
wild
this scene? The park scene?
so the wild woman ends up at a what was her name? You know what? She's just the wild.
She's the wild woman,
She's
the
the wild
female
woman.
of the species.
The female of the species, the
She's
titular
eating
female.
garbage at a picnic table.
Yep.
And hey, some 50s hoodlums with suspenders. Yeah, and they come on over and hey, pretty lady, like what are you doing by yourself out in these parts? Even though like she looks homeless, but I
Yeah.
hey, oh, don't mind us. We're just your local sex offenders. Hey, we're here. Fuck this scene, man. So we have your obligatory like group of like young men coming to harass somebody that's by themselves. And I'm like, if they pull out a switchblade or say
Yeah.
like Daddy-O, I'm done. I was laughing so hard at this. Like I half expected them to like chase after her like
Just snapping their fingers.
West Side Story. Because like you got the gambit, right? Like oh man, the character design of these guys, and you know right away they're trouble.
Yeah. And so Birdman flaps in and saves the day by attacking them with his claws.
Yeah, kudos to the show because they have so many real trained animals. They're not shitty puppets.
Yeah.
Like they're real wolves, and there's like a real panther, jaguar later, real hawk. And it's just funny when they cut to the hawk, it's just on the guy's back.
Yeah.
Hey, like a person assaulting wild woman number one.
Yeah,
Oh
and
yeah, he pulls out a fucking knife.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say, and here he does pull out a switchblade because he ends up stabbing Birdman in
I
the
laughed so fucking hard because she
in
gets
the wind.
away. They all run from a hawk, by the way. Like, excuse me. So this hawk lands on this guy's back, like pecking him, right? Trained hawk, not actually like hurting him or whatever, and makes like 5 grown ass fucking like wannabe gangsters like run away. And the one being attacked like pulls out a knife and he's like trying to stab at Manimal.
Yeah.
And indeed he does.
He stabs him in the wing.
And the cut where they stab the feathers with the wings.
Yeah.
And then because they didn't harm the animals, they cut to the hawk standing on the ground going ah, ah, ah. And then to signify it's hurt, the camera go and the music goes dun 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 and turns and zooms in on a feather, presumably that fell off of the hawk. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. Right? Like they don't show fake blood or whatever. They show like a feather had come out, and I'm like, legendary.
So so during the commercial break, Manimal turned back into he was like Manimal, maximize, and went back to human form. uh, yeah, so
Manimal, manimize.
Manimize.
And he's in the back of an ambulance.
He's in the back of an ambulance getting his arm treated. And the guy was like, oh, the person that stabbed you, we found feathers
Because he dropped his knife.
We found like bird DNA or something, or like feathers
He
attached.
said, "Oh, he must have been like skinning birds with it or something because we found feathers in the wound."
Feathers in the wound, and Manimal is like,
yes,
that does seem like the most logical explanation, doesn't it?
Oh yes, that does seem like the most probable explanation now, doesn't it? That dialogue, I'm glad that it stuck out in your. I'm not rewatching it. I just fucking remember that.
Yeah, it stuck out in my head too.
And I'm like, most of this is boring shit, but that's the thing about like the hit or miss.
Yeah.
Most of it's so fucking boring, but then some of it's like, oh, yes, well, that is the most logical conclusion now, isn't it? And it's
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like there's so much about this that I absolutely like adore and is like literally like my favorite thing ever. But the episode itself is so fucking boring.
It's and this is where we get into the side plot now that Wild Woman is gone. It's about half an hour of like detective library. Oh, we have to find out who she was. Is there any way we could have? No, it's impossible. Actually, my dear Watson, um, see, she was standing upright. If she was truly raised by wolves from a baby, which it's like, how? Can you imagine like a wolf mom like nursing a fucking baby? Like what? But anyways, it's just like she was running on two legs, which means she must have reached the ages of 4 or 5 before joining the wolf pack. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I, how do you know that?
World's greatest detective. So yeah, so they come to that conclusion.
He's an anthropomorph. He's an
She,
anthropomorph.
she ends up at his house. Like I think she like they I think the bad guys catch her and he like goes and busts her out and then takes her back to his
She
house.
goes to a zoo
Oh, she goes to a zoo.
because she's trying to endear herself to some wolves.
Yeah.
Or they're wild wolves. I kind of spaced out this part, to be honest. And she's trying to find a new pack, right? Like she's like kind of cowering and putting her like paw forward to be accepted by the pack. And Manimal finds her
Yeah.
because and transforms into a panther,
Yep.
scares the wolves off, and then like
We get to see him transform
transforms.
back.
We
Yeah.
didn't see him did we see him transform into the
No.
panther? No, the opposite.
No, and I was reading on Wikipedia that apparently this is the only instance in the entire show where we see him go from beast mode back into human form.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then we see the transformation sequence like in reverse, and again, it's different. Like he's got feline to human hands, and it's fantastic. And instead of running away in absolute horror, Wild Woman is intrigued.
Yeah.
And they have a moment, and he brings her back home to his mansion where many people live. I have questions.
And so Cop Lady is there, and for a while, because like I don't know, at first she seems like kind of jealous of the fact that of the attention that Wild Woman is showing him. So I
Because
was
she's
like,
all like, maybe she views me as competition.
yeah. So I was like, weird. I'm like, so is are Cop Lady and Manimal a couple? Do they live together? Are they just friends,
Are they
colleagues?
exes that are now friends? So there's some
I want
this
I want to know more, is what I'm saying.
answers on our desk by Monday. What we're saying is there's enough here to kind of make, and we found it for free without sailing the seven seas. Well, yeah, Internet
Yeah,
Archive.
yeah. It was on the Internet Archive, and the quality was quite good. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're DVD rips because apparently this show was released on DVD in like the UK like
Wow.
10 years
Okay.
ago. Yeah.
And indeed, they're in the mansion where many people live. I guess.
So Manimal's buddy, what are we gonna call him? Nightman? Yeah, Nightman. Because he shows up like wearing a night costume. Like a and I think he makes like an offhanded remark about how he
Oh,
just came from a costume party.
so him and a bunch of other dudes show up when she's like trying to acclimate to this new environment,
Yeah.
right? And do they drop him off? Do they come into the house too? One of them's dressed like a Frankenstein and one of them's dressed like a belly dancer. Oh, and then they leave. They drop him off at home because he's drunk.
Yeah.
And his associate, I'm not sure what their relationship is, but his buddy, cop buddy, right? Or no, woman cop, his
What
cop
a
woman, whatever,
Nightman.
Nightman, because he's dressed like a freaking like King Arthur knight,
Yeah, like
and
a medieval knight.
he sees this
Which for one, what a weird like it
why?
has no bearing on the plot at all. The
I
fact
was
that he's
laugh
dressed like a knight.
I was like perplexed in a good way. I don't often say that word, and I'm like, he could have just came home drunk.
Yeah.
So why is he coming home from a costume party? It's just like they really wanted him to be a knight for some reason. So you're Nightman now, and
Yeah.
he shows up and he's all like, Don't you know the party's over, lady? Like presuming she's dressed like a cave woman or something, I'm guessing, right?
And she's on the floor because she was sleeping too, so I guess he's assuming she's like passed out
Yeah,
drunk.
and she wakes up like she's good at acting like what she's. You know what?
With
No,
what she's
she's
given.
great. She's great at like this role that she's like given because she's very emotive in her, but also subdued in the way that she doesn't understand human interactions or whatever.
Right.
And I wonder if that's her real hair. It must be extensions. Nobody had hair that long in the 80s.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
And she's kind of in a corner and he comes encroaching her space, which as who's the dog whisperer? Caesar. He'll tell you is how you get bitten sometimes, right?
Right.
And he's like, "Hey, lady, what's going on?" And he just suddenly, Nightman has a cigar in his mouth. I'm guessing the character enjoys cigars. That's his
Yeah.
like thing, right? And she hisses at him and barks, right? And then like tries to claw. And this is when it gets like, this is why he was a knight, so they could make this slapstick scene, I suppose. The knight's helm closes and he
Right.
starts choking because it closes and locks the cigar like in with him. And he's like, oh, I can't breathe. Oh, it's getting hot, hot. And the fucking weirdest thing happens. He stumbles off of stage left into a hot tub that's just like near the living room. The, the 70s and 80s houses must have been fucking wild, bro. Like, why is there's this a tub, a pool in the house? Like,
I've actually seen that in like old TV and old movies for like from that
there's
era.
like carpet, and he just falls into a hot, like there's a steam room, but like there's like furniture beside it. Like wild. It must have been a 70s thing.
Yeah.
Being able to like lounge in your living room and
I'm pretty
have a
sure
hot tub.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember that in like one of the Dirty Harry movies. Like
It feels very 70s.
someone had yeah, and those movies are from the 70s. Someone I think in yeah, someone had a pool like
Like
in their living
Miami
room.
Hills kind of like design of the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, like where, you can.
Although funny enough, I think late in the episode they revealed that this show is set in New York.
It's supposed to
It's
be.
supposed to be New York. Doesn't look like New York at all. It looks more like Miami
Right, with the
or
palm trees and
LA or LA.
LA was what I was thinking. Like this seems like a Hollywood like hills kind of house,
Yeah.
right?
And listeners, full disclosure, I've never been to New York or LA, but like I've seen both of them depicted in movies,
I've played
television.
GTA
Uh,
Vice City and
that,
I've
that
played
to me, this does not
GTA
look.
5. So I know the difference between LA and Miami.
To me, this does not look like New York. Is what I'm
The
saying.
shot of the streets and the buildings from above when he was in hawk mode was like stock footage of like New York streets.
Yeah.
But other than that, not really.
No. This
So what happens
this
here?
show was clearly shot in California.
So the best actor, and I'm sorry, McCockendale, McCormick, Mc,
Uh,
McCock,
uh,
Simon, I can't remember his name.
McCorkindale.
McCorkindale. But Nightman is the best actor on the, the show.
Oh, I forgot to mention during that initial like Birdman transformation, like the faces that Simon like I talked about like the great faces that he makes in general, but like
But
the faces
particularly when he's
when he's
transforming.
transforming, he's like making like, and I know that's just dead air for the audio listeners, but whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
go to YouTube to screenshot us making stupid ass fucking faces.
well, and also for the audio version too. If I put the transformation sequence as the cold open for this, that's just going to be like a minute of just hype audio.
Oh yeah, so it's a treat either way. So what happens? Oh, something. This is why I think Cop Woman is Manimal ex girlfriend.
Okay.
Because he's all Nightman, he's in like the hot tub and he pulls his um, faceplate up, and he's like, "Oh, uh, Manimal, like you've had some wild dates, but like this one's even worse than that snake charmer girl."
Who used the snake to do the, and he like cuts him off.
And he's all like, "What was it?" And he was like, "Oh, careful! If you keep talking, you might end up with lockjaw, won't you, Nightman?" And then Cop Woman's like, "What does he mean? What
what did
thing
she
with a
do with the
snake?"
snake? Yeah.
And I'm like, "Ooh, wait, we making zoophilia like bestiality jokes?"
I think so, yeah.
No,
I think that's where we're going with this.
I don't know. Just a little lighthearted bestiality.
So let's just like gloss over the middle part of the episode.
Well,
The
we have
middle,
to because
it's
it's
just,
the research arc.
and it's so boring. It's so boring. It's
Basically,
just,
what it is Nightman is like, "Hey, there has to be record of her,
yeah.
right? Where did we find her? We found her in India." And then Nightman's like, "The Ganges River, right?"
There was a story about like a rich guy and his wife and their children who died in a boating accident. But here's the thing: their children, they had a boy and a girl, and the girl would have been about 4 years old. They never found her body. So I'm thinking it's her. And Manimal is like, "Are
We
you
mustn't
sure?
jump to conclusions.
Are you sure?" And he's like, "Nah, bro. Bro,
Source,
trust me."
trust me. And he's all like, "Oh, well, we have to back it up with empirical evidence if we're ever to prove anything." And in the background of this happening is bad guys with like some rich dude with
Some rich
an
dude
assassin.
who was in the lecture at the
Yeah,
beginning
he's
of the
talking to an
episode.
assassin. He's like, "You idiot, you were supposed to kill her. Now Manimal has her." And
Yeah.
he's all like, "Hey, you wanted it to look like an accident. That means the failure rate goes up."
And he's like, I don't care, damn it, just I want that woman dead. And somehow I can't remember how, I don't even really care. Somehow they piece it together that like that dude, that rich dude that was in the lecture at the beginning of the episode was also in India at the time of like the boating accident, and they're like, so it must be him who's behind it.
And the thing is, it's not that it's not like believable. It's just it's 20 minutes of the episode that's boring ass shit. So yes,
Yeah,
there's a rich evil dude that profited from killing his business rival or partner,
yeah.
so he would get full control of something. And he needs to kill this girl now because if they find out she's the heir or is who she actually like is, then like his company, half of his company or something would go to her and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It doesn't matter. He wants her dead.
Yeah, it culminates in a them kidnapping her, taking her, instead of just killing her, they take her on a boat. Instead of just killing her like outright, they take her on a boat and put her in a crate, and their
So they
idea
do
is
catch her.
they're gonna throw her overboard. And I'm like, wouldn't that crate just float?
I can tell how much you were paying attention, good sir. So they do get a hold of her instead of just like putting a bullet in her and then driving away, because indeed the assassin leaning out of a van with a rifle takes a couple shots at her when they're in Manimal's like convertible, and they
Yeah.
all like duck down and then they chase after him. So they clearly do want to kill him. This is where it starts to unravel. So they just took shots at her in public, like in the middle of the street,
Yeah.
right? But then later when they catch her, they bring her on a boat, they put her in a crate, but they say, "Oh no, no, don't put her in yet. I still need to finish putting the weights in." And then they're like, "Now, okay, you can put her in now." And it's like this slow, long, drawn out thing to make it so that Manimal and the others catch up to them
Yeah,
out in the
so
water. I can't
they
remember how they know they're out in the water, but they do. And they're like,
they
"Now all the
they
weights are in. We can put her inside."
and so Manimal, Cop Lady, and Nightman. Just
Manimal, cop woman, cop lady, and Nightman steal a fucking boat. Feels like a reboot episode. Steal a boat from a photographer
a photographer who's taking pictures of women in bikinis.
on a boat, but he's on the dock.
And so
And they like push all the bikini chicks
cop lady is like, police business, and we
police
need to.
business.
They just like throw the
There's like
models like
there's like
overboard.
5 models in like barely their bikinis. Don't give them a second glance. Don't even like. By the way, the photographer's so into it. Yes, baby. Yes. No, no, no. Yeah, baby. He's so into it, he doesn't even realize that they're stealing his boat until like after they're 20 feet away. And the
Well,
models, there's one model still posing when they start driving away in the boat.
and she falls
And she just
overboard.
awkwardly like fucking belly flops into the
So they speed away.
fucking.
So they speed away in pursuit, and so the bad guys like throw Wild Woman in this crate overboard, and they're like, "Oh shit, there's a shark!" And so Manimal,
I thought that was Manimal at first. It's not.
no, it's
There's
not.
just a shark
There's a
in
shark
the
there
scene
just
for
to
no
add,
reason.
just to add like extra tension, I guess, just because like I guess her drowning isn't enough.
Yeah. And
So
speaking of extra tension, a gunfight happens between the two boats.
yeah, and Manimal like jumps overboard and like starts to transform. He starts to transform, then he jumps overboard, and we see that he's turned into a dolphin. And so Manimal as fucking Echo the dolphin goes toe to toe with this shark and is like ramming him. Actually wins. Like we end up seeing
Kills
the
the
shark.
goddamn shark.
Kills. We see the shark.
Which, by
like,
the way, the
turned
shark
upside
wasn't
down.
a danger to anyone. It wasn't attacking the crate.
Yeah.
So Manimal just murders a fucking shark, and indeed, you see like a little blood spill and like a shark kind of. I think they fucking killed a shark for this scene.
I,
By the way,
yeah.
the shark in the footage is like great white shark, and then the dead shark is just like a small like a different kind, like a reef shark or something. It's not even the same shark. Or they used like stock footage of
Yeah, they
a dead
just
shark or something, but there is a dead shark in the water, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, Manimal. I guess only some animals deserve to live. He's a man-eater.
And so Echo the dolphin like
Kills
goes
Jaws.
kills Jaws, and then as the crate is filling with water, he goes and like fucking like spears it several times to break a hole open.
And meanwhile, it's showing the inside of the crate, and she's in the corner gulping the last bit of air. And I'm like, how's there any air in? That's not how. Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I guess it was an airtight crate, right? And then he makes a clean hole in it, and as he's like tapping B to dash at the side of the crate, and she comes out, and there's a very graceful, nice scene where she swims for the stunt person for Wild Woman, swims out and grabs
his fin, yeah.
fin, and they kind of like grace. And I know it's a stunt woman because as they gracefully come to the surface, right? It then shows the actress coming out of the water, and she's like holding her nose coming out of the water, and I'm like, okay. The Wild Woman couldn't even like come out of the water without plugging her nose.
And so Manimal's back in human form.
Oh, and he does like some happy dolphin like moves and the jumps in the water and stuff. And I'm like, why would Manimal perform? So Manimal transforms back, and I love how he just has his clothes. Like he's just dry.
That's pointed out on the Wikipedia article for
whatever
the
he's wearing, he is perfectly intact when he transforms.
Yeah.
And they're on the boat, and I think they're cop woman, lady cop, successfully like has like a megaphone, is like, oh, you're under arrest from blah blah blah,
and they're like
Manimal PD, and they're like, oh shit.
And they're like all celebrating, and like the screen like fades to black. And at first I thought this was the end of the episode.
So did I. And I'm
and
like,
I
oh
was
wow,
like,
there's like 10 minutes of credits.
I was like, what the fuck? Like, where's the like what happened to the like what's the resolution to the like, aren't you gonna go and arrest that guy? But then when we come back, we get a scene where Nightman just casually asks cop lady like, oh hey, what's the what how did the court case go? And she's like, oh, he's been indicted on like 8 counts of blah blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I guess. And so Manimal is like trying to get Wild Woman to like learn how to talk, and he's like
we
saying
just
her.
skipping over the playing with toys scene with the boat. Is that important or nah?
Not really. That's how they.
It's amusing.
That's how they figure out that
I'm a
indeed.
tiger. I'm the big bad boss of the jungle. And I just liked how he's like, she's like laughing and clapping her hands, and he's all like, "Oh, I'm an elephant, but I'm way stronger than you." And I'm like, they had fun. Like this is great. And oh, but here's a boat. Mom, and they put the little Lego pieces down. Christopher, boy, and then I can't remember what they thought her name was, but like
I think it was
wild,
Sarah.
wild woman, girl, and she grabs a Skeletor toy in like
Okay.
fear, and she's like, ah, and she starts smacking the boat, like knocking all of them off and like crying, and I'm like, Skeletor killed your family? Holy shit! I everybody at the 30-minute mark, there's a scene where they're playing with toys trying to like teach her and like see if she's actually this girl, and I like that that's the evidence
Yeah,
because she
that's
grabs
all Manimal
Skeletor and
needs.
smashes the, and he's
That
like, well, it turns out you were right, Nightman, it is her. And I'm like, because she grabbed a Skeletor toy and like bashed the boat and started crying.
yeah.
All that did, thanks for recreating her trauma so you could prove who it was, I guess. Now, where did the bad Skeletor touch the boat? Fuck you. Oh, but like you said, there's a little bit at the very end where they're trying to like humanize her, and her hair's combed, and she's looking in the mirror, and they're like, wolf, girl, man, lady cop, you,
Manimal.
manimal,
Nightman.
nightman, wild woman, and she's like,
Sarah or whatever her
me,
name was.
Sarah. Um, suddenly turns into a Congo reference. Wasn't the female monkey called Sarah? I don't remember.
I've never actually seen
And
Congo.
she goes, "Girl, Sarah," and everyone goes, oh, "Breakthrough! We've done it! Introduced her to society, and our job is done." Roll credits, and I'm like,
Because she can now say two words in English. Like it's like
and point at herself,
yeah.
and I'm like, "You definitely doesn't
Nightman
have
fucking high
permanent
fives cop lady.
freeze frame."
Because credits play.
Trauma cured, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh,
Developmental, all development, early childhood development. Fuck it, whatever. She'll be shopping tomorrow.
yep. And yeah, that's the fourth episode of I almost said Nightman. Manimal.
Is there just a show with Nightman where he pretends he comes home from a costume party every night, but he's actually just out?
And it's a different costume, and whatever the costume is ends up being like the inciting incident for whatever happens in the episode, whatever the plot of the episode is.
I like it.
Wow, we just created a show.
The laser, the laser man, right? Because it's different every episode.
Yeah. He like what is he?
Laser man.
He comes home as a plumber, and like one of his neighbors like mistakes him for an actual plumber, and he ends up having to like try and fix like some plumbing issue that they have. And also but also like they're being ripped off by like the previous plumber that they had plumbing company that they had hired, so he ends up having to like investigate what's going on, and he finds out that they're actually like run by the mob. And
So it starts with him just dressing up for fun, and then
and then
it unravels.
and then what and yeah, so like whatever costume he's in at the beginning of the episode ends up like leading into like what he like the plot of the episode somehow.
Michael D. Roberts. Anyone know what he's doing? Can he come and make Laser Man with us?
Michael
That's
B. Roberts. He's still alive.
Roberts, American actor.
Oh, he was in the 2018 remake of A Star Is Born. Hasn't been acting much in the 2010s, but he has been in a few things here and there.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, and in the it'll be in the episode of the podcast too, but in the intro for the show, Nightman makes a hilarious face when it freeze frames on him and shows his name.
He has a name, people. We're just calling them Manimal and Cop Lady Cop, and
Wow, this looks like a porno that I would watch.
I don't. Oh, nice. Is he wearing pantaloons? I don't know what that's from, but that motorcycle.
So, listeners, Cal sent me a screenshot that straight up kind of looks like a train fuck on top of a motorcycle.
And it's from The Ice Pirates, 1984.
The Ice Pirates.
With Michael D. Roberts. The
Ice Pirates.
The Ice Pirates, 1984.
Ice Pirates made of ice.
Okay, listeners, go and Google The Ice Pirates. Like, right fucking now. And tell me you wouldn't want... Ron Perlman is in it?
All right.
How have I not heard of this? Okay, next time it's our choices. I know what we're watching.
We're watching...
is this a movie?
It is a movie, yeah.
Oh, it's a movie. Well, The Ice Pirates.
Well, we're definitely...
Holy shit, there's a trailer on IMDb that is just terrible, so terrible and good.
Rotten Tomatoes, it has an approval rating of 17%.
Oh, that even better. Now I have to watch it.
I'm gonna leave that tab open just so I can...
Basically, we're gonna find things with Michael D. Roberts and Simon
McCrackendale.
McCrackendale.
McCorkindale.
McCorkindale. McCorkindale Chippendale, and just watch what they're in, because
I want to see
found
more.
anything bad.
I want to see more stuff with Simon McCorkindale in it. This guy's great.
Get him. We'll try to get him on the podcast, folks.
Well, unfortunately, he's been dead since 2010.
Oh no, then it'll be illegal if we do that. Never mind.
He died only at the age of 58 too. He died of cancer.
Sadly. Oh shit! Rip in peace.
Yeah, rip in peace.
Corkindale.
And
well, I guess
we've
gone down that rabbit hole pretty thoroughly. So here on the LAZOR podcast, we review something, we watch something, and then we ask the audience and each other. You just watched a random episode of 1984's Manimal. Would you tune in next week, Christopher?
So here's the thing, and I mentioned this earlier. This episode, like the middle part of this episode, is like so fucking boring that I actually like went.
We both forgot parts of it.
I like got up and like did other things while it was playing. Like I made the show art for this episode while like the episode was playing.
It's the Sherlock Holmes, like, oh, we're putting it together.
But there's so much in this that I just absolutely love. Like the beginning and the end, like the transformation sequence, the music, the actors, like the performances they give are just so over the top and hilarious.
Everything.
And like the hoodlums. The park hoodlums, the boat chase at the end, like the fucking dolphin fighting a shark.
Amazing.
Yes,
that was a choice. The director was like, get him to kill a shark.
Yes, I think I'm actually, there's only 7 more episodes of this. I think I'm actually gonna watch all of it.
Amazing. And you can let us and me and the viewers know, was this a dud episode or is this part of the course?
I'll chime back in on the next episode of the LAZOR podcast.
Well, you know what? I would tune in next week because I kind of want to watch episode 1. I want to watch, is episode 1 the pilot? Because it's not always the case, but it usually is the case.
It is, yeah.
Gonna check that out. And if it gets my seal of approval, I will continue. But this episode alone um, gets a I will tune in next week. Just because, especially when this had come out, you could like browse the paper or eat dinner or whatever it is people did in the 80s. Played Atari, like no, Atari wasn't out yet.
It was.
Was it?
Yeah, the Atari 2600 was out at this point. I think they were up to the Atari 5200 in 1983.
Right. Yeah, so you can play.
1983 is when the big video game crash happened because of ET.
Was it specifically because of ET?
It was because of ET, yeah.
Hmm.
And then video games were thought to be like just a thing that was dead for until 1985 when the Nintendo Entertainment System came out.
Yeah, I was always like, when did that exactly come out? And yeah,
it was a short period of
Zero
time. Like
year.
it was only the span of like I think like a year and a half where people were like, "Oh, video games are dead business," and then all of a sudden like a new console comes out and everyone's like, "Oh, hey, Mario."
Shit. Hey man, that's hype stuff. 2 games in one,
Mario and Duck Hunt.
right? And you get a kick-ass gun? Sign me up. And yeah, that's that's our
Oh,
that's our blast to the past. You can what I'm trying to say is you can watch Manimal while your brother's on hell, if you're rich and you have 2 TVs, well, if your brother's playing Duck Hunt in the background.
oh, honey, he's kidding. Nobody has 2 television sets.
Thank you.
The line from Back to the Future.
Uh-huh.
Score also done by Alan Silvestri, who did the hype music for this show.
Yeah, the soundtrack for everyone's childhoods.
So that has been episode 54 of the LaserComb podcast. Best way to support the show, go to patreon.com/lasercomb. LAZORCOMB. We're at the single $5 Gary tier. You get bonus preamble audio of this and all the other shows we do. You get commentary tracks. You get our news and current events program, LaserComb Tonight. And you get to pick a show, much like Lewis did this week, for us to review a random episode of on a future installment of this podcast. So if you want to get in on that, go to patreon.com/lasercomb. Follow me on Twitter at lasercomb, spelled the same way, or you can follow Cal at...
I'm at NeoKal, NEO_KAL.
Now, we're taking a couple of weeks off from this podcast to focus on another project, which I'm not going to say what it is. It's just going to be a thing that drops randomly. So we'll be back probably, time of recording, it is November 29th of 2022. We'll be back probably around the 20th of December with episode 55 of the LaserComb podcast, where we're going to be talking about The Venture Brothers, which is a pick from our patron, Josh. Now, to figure out what episode we're going to be watching, gonna hit the old trusty screen share. Oh, my computer is doing weird things. Wow, I don't know what happened there.
It do be like that.
That's not the first time recently that's happened when I've tried to hit screen share. So, you know what? Forget about the screen share thing. You're just going to have to trust me.
Take our word for it.
All right, so how many episodes does the Venture Brothers have? It has 81 episodes. So, gonna go to random number generator, 1 between 1 and 81, and here we go. 56 is what it landed on. What is 56? 56 is the first episode of season 5. What color is your clean suit? All right. Well, that, as they say, is that. And until next time, I've been The Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm NeoKal.
Thanks for listening. We will manimal you next time.
And on that note,
we'll manimal all
Manimalize.
We'll manimal all over you, all over your face next time.
Yeah, manimalism is a crime against humanity, and we're against it, for it. Yeah.
All of the above.
We're something. We're not sure how we feel because we don't know the definition of it.
That's right. Bye-bye.
Wow, that's too real.
Lost sight now, wanna believe something greater, something better inside of me. Shackled and chained, but now we're gonna get free because of truth. You're now.